have now reached the intersection where ideas, beliefs, and perspectives collide. So be free to be you. It's the Crossroads Podcast with your hosts, author, speaker, and transformational strategist, Barzini, and entrepreneur, empowerment coach, and tech diva, Dre Renee. If you're ready to talk love, business, politics, and everything in between, you're in for a ride. Welcome to the Crossroads Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? It's your man, Hunter Gray, your personal agent for change, making life easy, Barzini.
And I'm fempreneur extraordinaire, tech diva all day, Dre Renee.
And this is
The Crossroads,
where there's only one rule. Be free
to be you.
So we had a great episode last week, and we want to bring our special guest that we had last week back on to finish this conversation. Everybody, I want to bring back the Addisons, Marcus and Taylor. Welcome back.
Hey, what's up?
But so where we left off last time, we heard your amazing story, meeting on Bumble, Taylor, your prayer, Marcus, yes. your aversion to the smile, and nervousness setting in, and then the mindset, and then talking about how you moved in together and you made the conscious decision to wait until marriage to have sex, and was very intentional. And we talked about having that conversation, talked about the triggers. You know, it was very, very, very informative. And this week we want to get even more informative. So let's start off with this. How did I don't know how often you've told your story, or if you've ever gone in that much depth talking about it, but talk about what it was like hearing each other talk about the thoughts and the processes before, coming together. Because you guys shared what you were thinking before you met and how you felt before the date. And I don't know if you've ever really shared that before. So tell us about that.
For me, it was just really cool just to get like a glimpse into BT before Taylor, and how he was, traveling through the world, kind of waywardly, but that's all right. But no, seriously though, it was just really cool to see what his mindset was, when he decided to have the shift, and also just to get his thoughts on leading up to the very first date. It was just really cool just to get that insight.
Yeah, I think for me, it was a dual thing where, of course, I knew about her prep before the date and all this stuff, but the whole prayer thing, that didn't come out until after being dated. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, wow, there's another layer of this that I just didn't know about. So it was kind of cool to, hear the beginning, but then to hear the second portion of that was amazing to me.
Mm-hmm. Amazing to me too. How long did you guys date before you got married? I don't know if we covered
technically 2 years.
No, maybe a year.
No, 2 years.
Is it 2 years?
Yes. I mean,
time flies when you're having fun. Huh?
When I say technically, we got married August 15, 2020. Our dating anniversary was July 7th. So it was technically right at 2 years because we got together in July of 2018.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You guys are newly married.
New.
Oh, yes. I knew it was new, but I didn't know it was yesterday. Happy anniversary! That's
great. The ink just
congratulations! It's not even anniversary yet. It's just congratulations.
They just passed 2 months.
That's so dope. Oh,
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we getting them fresh off the journey. As in the Greek world, we would say y'all was fresh off the sands. You got sand between your toes.
Look, all in my toes.
So what has the response been from people who know how you met? And to catch everyone up, Marcus and Taylor, they met on Bumble, which is a dating app. And we talked before about how, Marcus, you had been on and off the app and everything else, and then you decided to change your, not your standards, but your stipulations, and you kind of set your settings younger. And then you saw her, and you initially said that you swiped left on her. I think on Bumble you got to swipe right if you're choosing, but you swipe left, or what happened?
No, he just changed his age. Yeah,
he never swiped.
He moved the age.
Yeah,
so okay,
took her out of his search.
He moved the age back up, and so she was out of his search. And then he decided I gotta reverse that thing. Yeah. and listen, dude kept swiping until he found her again.
Yeah.
And all the while, Taylor was praying for him and didn't know it was him that she was praying for. So that was it. Listen, go check out last week's episode to get the story. I'm not doing it any justice right now, but it's an amazing story. So what has been people's response to how you met? Like, has anybody talked about just what's negative and positive things that you've heard about having met on the app and then getting married?
So surprisingly, I haven't heard a lot of negatives, only because this is new age dating. This is how people are finding spouses, and especially in the age where you got COVID running rampant and nobody was out for months. This is how people met. So, but even back then, we never heard anything about it. I think it was when you told people that, okay, now you're engaged. Wait, y'all met where?
Right.
Oh, what? I didn't even think that was possible. Let me sign up and get an account. So it's been all positive.
Times I've seen like, oh, let me go get an account there. I'm like, y'all, everybody's story is different.
Right. It
doesn't mean that this is your path. But so the reception has been like overall like positive. One thing that we discovered when we started talking is like we had like 6 degrees of separation, right? We both were attending the same church at the same time. Never knew it, never saw each other. A friend of mine and his brother went to high school together. Like, it was all different ways we kept like running into, like, we know someone who knows someone that knows one of us.
We actually found out a month ago. We were actually in the same club
the same
night.
Both dating 2 different people.
That's crazy. There's a story that I heard. It's a true story, and I think they were on some news show. But this couple had crossed paths like 30 years prior or whatever to the story. They were married. And I think the husband had a picture at Disneyland from when he was a kid. And in the background of the picture, the woman saw her parent pushing her in a stroller.
Really?
Yeah. It was like, that's my mom and my dad. So like, they were in the same picture from childhood, and then their paths crossed and having a family of their own.
That's
so
crazy.
And it makes you wonder how many times you've actually crossed paths and like how God orchestrates things. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been meant for you guys to meet a long time ago, and he's like, okay, there she like, you know what I mean? And y'all are doing and distracted or whatever it is, you know. Or like, imagine this, like everywhere that we end up, we're predestined to be, but that thing that we're supposed to find in that moment, we don't necessarily get because we're distracted by something else.
Yeah.
Right. Or
you know what I mean? Like,
just not ready for it.
You're just not ready
destined
for
to be
it.
there. I wouldn't know. Maybe you were supposed to be. Maybe you were ready, but you made a decision. Like, y'all were both dating other people, like that you weren't supposed to be with.
Yeah,
you know, I don't know. That's I'm on one of 10 on one of my tangents. Like, what if? Like, ooh, cosmic energy.
I always wondered that, like, growing up, like, what if I just saw my husband and I didn't know? And that actually happened to me.
It may have happened, yeah.
That actually happened.
Wow.
That's dope. That's really dope. So, what's a lot of the positive things that you've heard and the encouraging things that you've heard?
From, like, family members and friends, or
whomever.
I think I'll just speak for me. People knowing me and my story, and you know, both of my parents, while they're great parents, they just didn't get it, you know, when they got married. And so, coming from divorced parents, like, there's always kind of like in your mind, like, you know, I wonder if I got what I needed or learned what I needed to learn by watching them. But everyone's just happy and excited for us and hopeful. Even my mom is like, y'all make me feel like I'm ready to try love again, you know, and that's just like so humbling, like, to hear that. And so I just really hope that it just continues to be like an inspiration for others, because while I think what we have is special, I don't think we're special like it only can happen to us, you know. So yeah.
Agreed.
That's really dope. Well, speaking of moms, I definitely told my mom about last week's episode, and she got a little too excited as far as I was concerned. I was like, "Are you saying?" She's like, "What app is that?" I was like, "Wait, why do you need to know?"
That is so funny.
But
This was
she was like, "I want to check that episode out." But she's a widow, so she was like, "I want to be able to tell other widows about the app." That's how she cleaned it up. But I felt like she was gonna try to slide through, so I need to need to keep an eye on her. So if she's sitting on the couch swiping, then I know what's going on.
Right.
Look,
That's funny.
don't mama got to have a life too. Let mom live her best.
Oh Lord.
Get it how you live. That's all I gotta say. That's how you live.
You know, I mean, I've done my share of swiping recently, but
Yeah, how's that going? Look, we all were like,
like what? I'm just seeing what's on there. That's all. Like, I heard about it, and I'm like, you know.
Hey, man, look, get it how you live. That's all I gotta say.
So it stands to reason, though. There's a lot of negative stories that have come from dating apps, and we hear them all the time. That people are on there for different purposes. Some people just don't match. There's, some horror stories out there dating, and it makes me think about. I was just reading one of my old Facebook posts. My baby sister was telling me about a date she had going on, and I guess the guy asked her out for drinks, so they went out, and he wasn't ordering no drinks, so she ordered a beer and some food or whatever, and then he was just drinking water. And so all of a sudden, like, I guess at the end of the day, he calls the waitress over there and says, "Hey, yeah, she needed her check." And
ain't worth a quarter.
And then bounced like, yeah, it was, like great date or something like that. And so
Great date
or something. But I told her, I was like, listen, don't ever go on a date and order anything that you yourself can't afford to pay for.
Hello.
Or
just
if
in
you
case.
store, I was like, call your brother. I'll send it to you so that your guy. I ain't gonna be financing all your damn dates, but
right, no. And that's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about that after our last episode. That, like, when we were dating, our very last date, when we saw Cheryl Underwood, I paid for that, and that's not me bragging, but it's like we literally just like took turns, like it wasn't like I'm like, oh, you have to date me.
Well, okay. So the way that happened, she was more. She was like, I want to take you out. It wasn't like it was planned.
It wasn't like a scheduled, like, no, it was planned. It was definitely planned.
She, I think the first 2 dates I covered it. I covered it. That was just I figured that's what I'm expected to do. But the third date, she proposed the date. She was like, I want to take you out. Where do you want to go? X, Y, Z. Let's go to Z. Okay, I got it. Okay. Right.
That's the night he asked me to be his girlfriend, so I think maybe that did something.
It worked, huh?
Listen,
I wasn't trying to even get done, but that's what happened.
But that says a lot. So Taylor, I want you to speak to this because we see a lot of women that just have these lists of expectations. He's got to do this. He needs to do this, and if he don't do this, then he's not worth the time. Like, he need to pay for all of the dates. He needs to do all of this stuff. Like, what do you say to women who have those, we'll call them standards for, I'd call it something else, but we'll call them standards. What do you say to that?
What I say is this. I think everyone has the right to their own set of standards, stipulations, whatever. With that being said, I think I'll speak for myself. I just think that, thinking of the current times, right? Now we live in a society where both of us work most of the time. We're both working, we're both earning. And the man wants to feel appreciated too. Yeah, I just go in thinking, how do I want to be treated? How do I demonstrate that I care for this person? And one of my love languages is like gift giving and doing things. And so I'm like, I don't have a chip on my shoulder or an entitlement where I'm like, no, you the one, you the man, you supposed to do that. No, I don't like that kind of mindset, because I really subscribe to happy spouse, happy house. Like, seriously, it's not just about what I want or need, or even what he wants or need. It's about us pouring into each other. And like, you can't withdraw nothing you don't deposit. So you're going to be in the negative.
They try.
So I'm just like, I think it goes both ways. And even now, well, even once we got together, it was my idea, because I always have ideas, but we trade off Valentine's Day and our anniversary. So one plans Valentine's Day. So whoever plans Valentine's Day, then the other one plans anniversary, and vice versa. And that just gives us an opportunity just to love on each other. You know, it's not like the pressure of, oh, I got to get her something, because if I don't, she going to be mad. Or, you know what I mean? It's just like both of us showing you that we love each other.
Wait, so whose turn is it for y'all's first wedding anniversary?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I
don't know.
It's his.
I don't know.
Because remember, but let me tell you what I did. Turn for the anniversary this time before the wedding, remember? And I got the chef.
Ooh.
I got the private chef. That's when we got Haley.
I was like, oh, he don't even remember. Okay.
Right.
Listen.
It was during Corona, so it was a weird time.
So that means that Valentine's Day is mine, right? So our first married Valentine's Day is mine, but he got the first real anniversary.
All right, Marcus, let's go.
You got
We're gonna
this,
be
bro.
checking in. We're gonna be checking in.
Listen.
Photos, y'all gonna see it.
So hearing her mentality around dating and everyone needs to be happy, how did that affect your or impact your mindset in dating her? Like, did that do more for you, or were you already sold already, whether she did that or not?
Right. So I was pretty much bought in at that point. So when she decided to look out for me, I was just like, okay, that doesn't happen very often. So with everything I had seen up until that point, I was definitely bought in. I didn't know she had that giver's mentality until we progressed a bit more in the relationship, but it definitely helped me out, and I had to learn how to receive.
And that two very important things. Dre, you want to kind of come in on that part?
I was just gonna ask Taylor if it was hard for her to be a giver, like to risk, I'm going to pay for this date, or I'm going to be an equal partner, versus letting him come all the way. Like, had you had experiences where you felt like it was safer to be more reserved, or was it because you had prayed this prayer and you were sure that this was your husband, you're like, okay, I'm bought in too? What would you say?
That's a very good question. I think, knowing my nature, it would have taken me longer to get to that point, maybe because I wanted to ensure that, like, he's just not around for foolish stuff before I make a kind of investment like that. But because I knew going in, and again, I was intentional about everything that I did, and I wanted him to know and feel that, like, he was appreciated and cared for too, because he made me feel that so very early on in the whole dating. So I was like, you know what? I want to do something for him. So I think that's kind of like why I felt comfortable, and why I felt like, now was the time to show him this, because I just felt like it would be well received and appreciated.
Did either of you have like rules, like dating rules that you were looking for, or that you expected the other for? Like those, like you didn't tell the other one, like, some people have the 90-day rule, or the we only gonna go Dutch, like whatever, like just all these rules that people have. What do you say to people that are on these apps trying to date, but they have all these rules? Do you see the rules as benchmarks or barriers?
I'm gonna let you take that first.
I see them as good boundaries, I guess, until if and when either party has like vetted the other one out and say, you know what, hey, let me reconstruct what we can look like now that I know you, now that I feel like I can trust you. Let's revisit like these rules and and stipulations that I had going in, because now I want to redefine like what this means for us coming into this. So I don't know. I think it can be a good thing, but it also can be very like, it can be a hurdle to overcome for both if it's like used as a weapon, you know.
Yeah.
What do you say, Marky?
I think they're barriers. I think they're complete barriers. I'm gonna tell it like it is.
That's why we're here.
My thing is, at the end of the day, you can't. If I had a barrier, let's just flip it on me, because everybody wants to say that women always have these rules and things and all that stuff, but men have a set of rules sometimes too. And if I were to treat Taylor based on a certain set of rules that somebody else had to have me implement, that wouldn't have allowed her to be her full self to me. So early on, whatever stipulations that I had, whatever person I thought I needed to have, Taylor wouldn't have been able to fit that mold, because I would have had a prefix. I would have had a set mind on what that needed to be and what that needed to look like. And at the end of the day, it would have been a hurdle, because she wouldn't have been able to meet those standards.
That's good.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be straight up. Like when we're talking about at the time when I was thinking about the person I wanted to be with, I'm thinking she gonna be a natural hair type of person. She just go with the flow type of vibe and all that stuff. Well, for the most part, my baby like her hats. She like to be done. I'm going out tonight.
I don't sound like that.
I think she proved my point. So,
like, hold on.
That's the type of person I thought I was going to be with. Somebody who's kind of more like me. And at the end of the day, that wouldn't have allowed her to be her. And that would have been my fault for missing out on that, because I put those stipulations in place.
That's really good.
That's real good. So what would you say to, and I would love to hear your advice to both men and women, like from the both of you. Like Taylor, what would you say to women and what would you say to men? And then Marcus, like same question. What would you say to women and men that are, and I'm not even talking about, we don't even have to talk about the people that are out, trying to have sex or just some flings or getting meals or whatever. Let's speak to the people that are truly looking for connection and for companionship and for love, for eventually marriage and family or whatever they're looking for. What would you say to them, like during this process?
I would tell them to.
Women or men?
Both, honestly.
So this is the same advice to both of them, or are you going to differentiate?
So, okay. I'll say advice to both of them for right now, and then I'll differentiate.
Okay.
So for both men and women, do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged. You're always going to meet someone in the dating process that you don't like, or somebody who just doesn't click with you. Don't be discouraged by that. So that's for both men and women. For women, I would say be a bit more open to the person that you're talking to, and kind of look past yourself to develop a relationship, or to see if you would like to develop a relationship with this person beyond your set of rules that you have in your head. For guys, I would say go with your first gut, because we know when we don't like somebody. We'll just have a tendency to string them on and think, it might be better. It might be better. And it might be better. It don't matter how fine she is, bro. It's not going to get better. It don't. So just let it go. Be a man and just let her know, hey, I just don't see this working out, but it's been a pleasure getting to know you. And then just let it go from there. Don't hit her up at 11 o'clock when you're bored, or at 1 o'clock when you're getting out the club trying to see what's up.
I'm supposed to just go to bed?
Yes.
Go to bed, dog. Go to bed, bro. Serious, go to bed. That's all I'm saying.
That's the night just started. Almost like drunk texting is part of the night. Like,
Well, not her. Try somebody else.
hey.
Get on Bumble at
Only
1
you
a.m.
serious.
See who you can find, but not her. Leave that one alone.
Remember when I said
We've all been there.
I've been
Don't get me wrong, we've all been there. But
I
you know,
mean,
let that go, dog. That's
good.
that's the hardest thing for a man to do sometimes is to let go of his options. Just let him go. Just let him go. That's my advice.
Yeah. That was solid. I'm with it.
Appreciate that, y'all.
For me,
I don't know about that one, Marcus.
wait a minute.
What you got to say about it, bro? What's wrong with it?
No. That was in all seriousness. That was solid advice. I don't think that it's always and totally about letting go of the options. Sometimes I think it can be deeper. Sometimes I think there is a level of loneliness that's being fulfilled, even when you know that you don't fit. It's that starting over, or this person is a buffer to the next one. And then there's those times where you actually don't want to hurt her feelings. Like I'm somebody that's like that. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna tell you this, man. But I'm like that too.
Like, how do I say this?
I'm like that too, though. I'm like that too. And my thing is, if you're scared of hurting anybody's feelings, then you don't need to be in a relationship to begin with, because you always gonna hurt their feelings. You always gonna hurt their feelings.
Well, that's true. And I always say, look, I'll never hurt your feelings on purpose. But it's kind of like that anticipation of a conversation that you know was gonna hurt.
Yeah.
Like, I hurt feelings accidentally all the time. I do that at work. You know.
Man, even if you do it on purpose, because I had to deal with that loneliness too. There was a moment where, man, I'll never forget it. After one of my longer relationships that I told y'all about, that 6-year relationship that I ended, there was a point in time where we used to always chill on Sunday nights. That was our thing. We just, we chilled on Sunday nights. I ain't got my Sunday night chill buddy anymore. And as a man, you don't want to sit up and say, man, I'm lonely right now. But bro, I had to sit in it, because I don't want to just arbitrarily put somebody in that place just for my fulfillment. You know what I mean? And it's just, at the end of the day, that's more detrimental to somebody else.
That's how you end up entangled.
Well, that's how you end up entangled, and that's how you end up hurting. Right. And that's how you end up hurting somebody's feelings more by not just being upfront with them.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. All right, Taylor, your turn. To women and to men, what would you say?
So, to both. This is generic and it's simple and it's cliche, but seriously, love yourself first. Like, honestly, like, until you love you, you cannot love anybody else. I would also say you don't want to expect the other to be able to read your mind, right? Or have all the context and knowledge about your life and the things you've been through, and just be honest. I know that sounds so simple, but seriously, like, kind of backdooring what you were just speaking of, I don't want to hurt her feelings. Sometimes I think y'all underestimate how much you can take, right? And what will set us off, or overestimate. And I think y'all have to let us decide for ourselves, like, what we are willing to deal with or not deal with. When you're dishonest, whether it's malicious or not, then I'm painting you as this kind of dude, when I really would have been okay, or would have found a way to work with you with this thing. But since you were dishonest and you assumed I wasn't going to deal with it or whatever, now I want nothing to do with you. So I would say just be honest about wherever you're at. If you're just chilling, hey, I like you, but I'm just chilling right now, let her know that and let her decide whether she wants to be a chill buddy. For my ladies, don't be a chill buddy if you want to be a wife. Okay, like, seriously, just don't just deal with a dude just to have a warm body. I think sometimes, like, as women as well, that loneliness kicks in. We have things like biological clock on our mind. I don't know any woman who can't admit to the fact that we have, like, unspoken comparison between us as women, or such and such got engaged and married, such and such got engaged and married. What am I doing wrong? You know what I mean? Just worry about yourself. Worry about what you want, your own lane. And if you say, hey, I want to be married, I want to be a wife, then don't settle for being a chill buddy. You know, don't be content with that. Yeah, you can start off as a chill buddy, sure. But if you don't see that going anywhere, don't stay in it just to be like, I got somebody I can call. You know, and that kind of goes for both, but that's kind of what I would say to both.
So I totally agree with what Taylor said for, for the guys with this whole I don't want to hurt you thing. I've always felt like I'd rather you hurt me a little with the truth than devastate me with a lie, right? So the more that we carry on with something that's not real, that, allows more time to pass, feelings get bigger, stronger. And then my reaction is going to be different than, in the beginning where I can go, wow, this sucks, but I can appreciate your honesty, especially if you're dealing with somebody who really, really does. A lot of times people are like, be honest with me, and they don't mean it. But for those that appreciate the truth, it's just like, okay, this sucks. I really liked you, but I appreciate that you didn't allow me to waste my time. And especially we're talking about biological clocks, like years of my life with you, and you knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. So I definitely agree with that. And then for the ladies, and I've told Jason this, I respect men so much for standing their ground, right or wrong. They're like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm not going to do. And sometimes women will allow themselves to rethink or reevaluate something that they already know they don't want to be bothered with. Right. I don't want to be a chill buddy. I don't want to be in a situationship. I don't want to, whatever the case may be, state that. And then as time goes by, or because he's not bending, then you bend. And at the end of the day, you're upset. Correct. But he didn't force you, so we have to be just as steadfast about what we want, even if it's not going to be with that person. So I'm with you on that.
I agree.
So, I mean, we've talked about people like not being discouraged and not being frustrated. And so I'm in a group and I don't say much in the group. People are, they're talking about like dating shenanigans, this, that, and the third, but it's very, very, I look at it as being very negative. And I've talked to a couple of people and I was like, oh, we're just sharing our experiences. And I'm kind of like, are all your experiences bad? Like, has anyone had good experiences? And so I'm wondering how much. And so in this particular group is mostly women and they're, just sharing how trash the men are that they've come across and everything else. And not to devalue their stories. But I wonder, I'm someone who, when you bring something to me, I'm always going to encourage you to be introspective. Like how much control do you really have over your own experience, or how much control are you willing to accept or acknowledge of your own experience? And so what do you say to the people that just think it's all for none, people just out here playing? Like I know we've said to be discouraged, but like what would be some steps, like tangible steps, like if it's the thought process, if it's actual steps, if it's vetting somebody, like what would you say to people that are in the game, specifically online dating, about that part of the process?
That's a good question. Again, don't be discouraged. That is an active step. I would say that for sure. Like, and to your point, like I'm the same way. If there's something that I did to contribute to the situation unfolding the way it did, then I need to assume responsibility as well. Like I guarantee you, it's not just one person, and then that was it. They messed it up. They did this, niggas. That's not it. I don't think that's it. So what I would say to that, don't be discouraged, but at the same time, be introspective. Like you said, take a look back from start to finish. What were some things that you did that you found to be questionable? Right. And then once you determine that, you need to have some guidelines, right, for yourself, not so much for the other person. You were so busy looking out for guidelines for this other person that you didn't realize that maybe a boundary, an internal boundary that you never verbalized, was crossed.
That's good. And it's just funny because I have these conversations often, right, about expectations. And my personal purview about dating nowadays, it's people want such an instant connection and situation. Like, there's a meme and people were like, oh, what are like essential questions you should ask on a first date? And people are, oh, do you want marriage in the future? How many kids? Like, just all these super penetrating. And my answer to that question is always, hey, would you like to go out again? Like, that's an essential first date question. And I feel like we carry this mentality of people are literally looking for life partners at hello, like hi, and then trying on last names. And I contend that we vet our friends far more and far deeper than we do a potential life partner. We come in and it's this expectation of, this is what I expect. If you're trying to talk to me, if you're trying to do this, if you're trying to blah, 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 blah. And I always say, like, Andrea and I can't trace the day or the time that we became best friends, right? We don't know. We just woke up one day. I was like, dang, you know what? You're still here. I'm still here.
Right.
Here. And I have another really great friend. We always say, like, when did we get close? Like, how did this happen? You know what I mean? It's so organic that you don't know the moment that it was bam, in a friendship. But yet when it comes to love, it's like, now, hello, love me. Hello, do the things that I require in order for you to qualify to be my life partner. And yet we've never approached somebody at a social function and said, hey, you know what, we should be best friends. I like your conversation. I like I like the vibe. We should be best friends. Right. And let's exchange numbers and work on being best friends. Like, you don't do that. You know what I mean? But then we turn around and say, I want to marry my best friend. And for me, it's illogical. So tell me your views on this. I had a conversation with the ex, right? And things weren't going well, and we just had some issues with her. I guess her view of one of my friendships with a female, which is one of my best friends, and she's like, I want to be your best friend. And I responded, you cannot be my best friend, like, because to do that, I was like, at the time we had like 15 years in, and I was like, what you're literally telling me is that you want to erase 15 years of memories and experiences that I have with this person based solely on a title that you have of being my girlfriend. It doesn't work that way. I was like, but what you're also missing is the fact that you want to be my first, and you can't be my first. You can't be the first woman I made love to. You can't be my first kiss. You can't be the first woman I fell in love with. I was like, but you have the perfect opportunity to be my last, and you're missing that part. I was like, you can be the last woman I make love to. You can be my last first kiss. You can, like, I don't have a vacancy for best friend, but I have a vacancy for wife. I don't have one of those. And you're choosing wrong. You know what I mean? I was like, you have the opportunity to wake up with me every day, and you worried about somebody that's thousands of miles away.
Right. That got a text.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and I just hear a lot of people like, oh, I want to marry my best friend. And you have to also talk about best friend, all the while your best friend is sitting there like, and this best friend knows more about you. Like, to me, and I'm just thinking from a very logical perspective. So, like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, am I off or she like, and I'm not saying right or wrong, but what are your views around like best friends and such?
I like how you put it towards the end. At first, I was like, what you mean she can't be your best friend? I mean, but now I get what you're saying, the way that you put it together, especially, and it seemed like Shawty was a little wasn't focused on the big picture, right? What I would say is, let me speak for me. I don't have, not because of anything, but I don't have a opposite gender best friend. I think maybe if I did, I would probably have different views about all of this, but my best friend is a female. And so there was a vacancy for a male best friend companion in my life. And Marcus is like my male best friend. Now, I don't feel any kind of way because he does have a female best friend that he's had for years now. And I don't feel like, oh my gosh, I need to like be in that spot. No, I have my own spot, and I have my own lane. And, and it's healthy for him to still have those friendships and things because, that's his friend, and I love friends. I affectionately call him my husband because that's what he is to me.
Y'all are cute. Hey, look, Marcus is trying his hardest not to blush right now. Did you see his face? Like,
my best friend. Yes.
No, but what I'm really trying to get at is I believe there's room for all, right? It doesn't have to be either or.
Ooh, man, you hit on a lot of stuff. So again, these are these preconceived notions that we have about relationships that we take and we put them on other people and we expect it to be, plug and play, essentially. That's not how relationships work. Everybody has a different mindset when it comes to relationship. The key is having those mindsets come together and fostering a healthy relationship from there so you guys are on the same wavelength. At the end of the day, we don't live in a Disney princess world. At the end of the day, like she said, I have a female best friend already. I'm not looking for Taylor to be my end-all, be-all best friend. I want Taylor to be my wife. Taylor, of course, like she said, she calls me her husband and all that stuff. We kind of look at it a little differently, but that doesn't mean I respect Taylor's view on that. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, when I was looking for someone, I wanted a wife. And for you to try to impede my space and my mindset and how I view a relationship means that you are not secure in how you view your own view of relationships. And so, my thing is, look, let's take this thing day by day, bit by bit, because I need to get to know you. You need to get to know me. We need to see if we can gel. And then beyond all of that, we'll talk about friends and all this stuff and how they play into the equation. But we need to develop our center first before we go out and then try to pull people in to try to say that, hey, okay, who is she? Who is this? No. Right. Once you're secure in who we are, then you won't have any questions about that.
Right.
You just
and I think a lot of times people don't get there because they are so insecure, right? Like I'm trying to make sure you're only mine. And that's just so irrational, right? Like
it is.
By the time we're this age, we belong to our parents, sisters and brothers, cousins, friends. Like we've had so many connections, and then someone wants to come in and it's like, spend all your time with me, focus only on me, it's only me and you, I rank here, and it's just like, chill.
Yo, I had an ex who, whenever we had issues and I would go seek counsel about it, not necessarily go downplay her, she told me, I don't want you talking to anybody about our relationship. I said, what? She said, I don't want you to go talk to anybody about our relationship. And then it's one of those, I hate checking people. I really hate checking people. But it was one of those moments where it was like, yo, it's necessary. So then I ping back to her. So you like me, right? Yeah, I do. So you realize that these people who I go get counsel from were here before you got here, right? Yeah. So the sum total of this relationship with this person has made me who I am today. And you're telling me that I can't go talk to this person about a situation that I'm having just because you're what's the word I'm looking for? You're not secure about our relationship. Well, okay. All right.
I think a lot of times we can be with someone, because I had the same situation, and to her credit, she wasn't always wrong. So there was somebody who I would share relationships, and she asked me not to talk to that person. And because I'm like, but I also felt you were always trying to control me, so I didn't hear. I was like, are you just trying to be in control now? And you wanted to control people's view of you. You scared of how people gonna see you if I share, and because you can't control what information I share. This is what I'm thinking.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to realize one day, I'm like, when I'm talking to this person, they're never really giving me any feedback. Like they'll ask, it's like, oh, how's it going? And then I'm like, oh well, and I'm because I'm frustrated and I'm upset, so I'm spilling, right? And then one day it just hit me. I was like, wait a minute, like I do that, and then it's like, and then go about their business. And I'm like, and then I was like, wait a minute, hold on, like I'm giving all this information, and then it made me start thinking back, like, when is the last time I got some feedback or some sound? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh,
see, we tapping into a deeper conversation.
Yeah.
right.
You got to watch the people who you divulge your information to.
Yeah. And
You
so
got
what I started doing is my rule one, I have very few trusted sources. So there's select, very specific people who I'll go to.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I had to notice who are cheerleaders and who were and I won't say that we're not being my friends, but I have friends who have an inability to be objective.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so I need to go to those friends that tell me when I'm tripping, that tell me, and I think some of the most sound advice that I got and really made me look at me. So me and Dre got into it one time and she was pissed at me. It was something that I can't remember exactly what happened. It was at my birthday party and I think she got left outside or something. And I didn't
remember this story to save my life. He remembered.
Whatever it was, I was in trouble, right? And my mindset was like, man, why? I told everybody to be such and such and such. I'm trying to celebrate my, and I'm talking to our other friend, our mutual friend. And she told me because to me, I was like, that doesn't make sense. And she said something. She's like, Jason, this is one thing about you. She was like, you hear things or you only care about things if it makes sense to you because you're very logical. Like if things don't make logical sense to me, I don't connect emotionally to it. So I'm like, and I never heard anyone articulate it that way. And so basically she was saying, while you're right, you're also wrong. And so that's why I think it's about trusted. So do you guys have trusted sort of specific people that you talk to about your relationship, or now that you're married, do you how does that work for you? And did you just allow each other to have those people who you talk to, or did you talk and agree upon whom you talk to?
Oh, that's a good question.
I can say this one right now.
Okay.
So in my prayer life, and that's another thing I didn't mention, y'all. After we got together, the prayers didn't stop. Like I prayed for him once a week, like intentionally about things that I saw, didn't see yet, wanted to see, was hoping for anyway. So one of the things that I prayed about was for him to be able to have wise counsel, because I knew that it would be important for him to have people to just talk to, and also just have a sounding board. And I say all the time, Jesus had 12 disciples. Why do you think you can do any of this alone? You can't do any of this by yourself. It's not sustainable. So anyway, I knew that it was important for him to have that, and for me as well too, because a really good friend is a good mirror, and they'll correct you if you way off. They're like, oh no, you shouldn't have did that, or they'll say, hey, they don't know that about you yet. Give them an opportunity to learn, whatever. So I would like to say, when I have situations where Marcus is getting on my nerves, I talk to 3 people and 3 people only. My cousin was my matron of honor. My best friend was my maid of honor. Obviously, my mom is my mom. Those 3 people I talk to specifically because I know that, one, they subscribe to the same things I subscribe to, because I do subscribe to a biblical marriage. 2, they are non-biased. Seriously, they don't care about hurting my feelings, or telling me I'm wrong. And 3, they're going to be solutions oriented. They're not going to push me away from my husband. They're not going to say, oh girl, you're right, he messed up. No, they're not going to do all that. They're going to give me solutions. They're going to let me vent, but they're also going to say, hey, have you tried this? Maybe if you should come at him in this way, or give him his space right now, whatever. So that's kind of how I approach all of that. So
yes, sir. So to add to your question, Jason, we didn't necessarily discuss who we were talking about things to, so the other person can have peace of mind. It just kind of naturally came up. So when we did have those spats, then I knew she was talking to her mother. I knew she was talking to her best friend. I knew she was talking to her cousin. These are things she would just kind of naturally tell me once we came to some sort of resolution. And the same for me. You know, I have my best friends, my 3 best friends that are already married. Again, they just kind of came up naturally. As far as together seeking counsel, this kind of segues into something else. It's so important to get counseling. Premarital counseling. So now we have a new sounding board between the 2 of us, because we have our pastor, and then also the gentleman who gave us premarital coaching. So we got, man, we got a double dose of it.
Yeah, we did. They're like, y'all gonna work. Here you go.
So we almost, I would say we sat through almost
14 weeks.
14 weeks of counseling all together. And so through those 2 gentlemen, our pastor and our coach, now we have 2 other sounding boards that either one of us can go to.
Now, was the coach from the church?
No, so the coach is actually my godfather, but he has his own coaching institute. And I will say, and I will admit this, sorry, Paran, I was a little concerned that he may be a little biased or like coming from or, you know, no. I mean, Godfather was completely off and he was coach, you know. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I just shared with a friend of mine about, you know, premarital coaching and counseling. He was like, what's the difference? I was like, let me tell you. So the premarital session coaching that we were, or counseling that we went through, was more obviously biblically based, because it was our pastor who married us. We went through this report called through this thing called SYMBIS, which is Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. And the way that he like did our sessions, it really was based on what our reports told him that we needed to kind of tackle. And it was really like more getting our mental, our emotional and spiritual like selves together, and like well before we took on like
very organic,
the undertaking of marriage.
It wasn't like structured. It was very kind of organic, and it helped a lot, you know.
Yeah. And the coaching was more practical, day-to-day steps, how to handle finances, how to fight fair, how to deal with family, you know, things like that. And I think we needed both. Again, I know I sound like a broken record, and I'm not trying to be funny, but like we subscribe to a biblical based marriage. So we wanted that spiritual aspect, right, covered, and to see like how we line up with what the Bible says in today's time. But at the same time, it also was beneficial just to get practical day-to-day tools just to how to navigate life together.
I love that. Yeah, that was definitely going to be my question, because my godfather is on my short list for premarital counseling. And I was like, not necessarily would he be biased, but I was wondering, like, am I going to be all the way honest and share the things that I probably need to share,
especially when it comes to sex?
Yeah, I'm like, that's weird. I don't. So it was good to, you know.
No, yeah, I was concerned if I was going to really be fully bought in, because it is my parent. But no, I want us to work, you know. So I was like, listen, I ain't got time to be cute. This is what I did. I did it. It was me. So
it's funny when you talk about godparents. My godmother, when she was still alive, me and my ex were like going through it. My ex just had like an attitude, like whatever was going on, and I know my godmom, she told me, she's like, y'all ain't been having sex. She's like, I can tell. And I was like, nah, the sex life was suffering. And then I remember she came through one day, she was all jovial and stuff like that. She was like, well, I see some things have changed. So I was like, yeah, mom. She was like, toe that ass up, huh? And mind you, it was some like my grandmama didn't talk like that all the time until like you know I was like Ma, she was like I'm just saying. I was like Right. I
That
was
is
surprised, and then
funny.
low key, I was like, but I did do some work, my.
Oh,
You didn't have to give her the okay, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I miss my godmom. I miss her so much though. But it's like I said, it's good to have someone who you can have those conversations with. But I do think it's you have to be careful of who you speak with and how the relationships can be affected. So to that point, I would say this like, okay, so Taylor says she talks to mom, best friend, and cousin, right? And I assume, Marcus, you have relationships with all three of them of your own, yes?
Mhm.
So my question there was, has it ever, or how do you feel your relationship with them is affected knowing that those are who Taylor goes to when she's upset with you? Because she's giving her account of it. She's upset with you, so she's giving these accounts,
Mhm.
and so
not just when
it's
I'm
like,
upset.
well, yeah, I mean, you
Listen,
married them, so
I know
they were in the way.
regardless, I know what you mean.
Uh-huh.
I think for me, it's not an I have to thing. I'm talking like I'm not dealing with this, but for me, it's like, okay, I'm solid in my relationship with her. You know what I mean? And even if we do have a spat, or even if we do have a disagreement, even when she is seeking advice, or even if she is venting, whatever the case may be, I know where you're coming from when you're asking that question. At the end of the day, I need to be secure in who she is. Biggest thing that we took away from premarital coaching is that we need to be protective of one another. So as long as she isn't slandering me, even in her frustration, even in her anger, I'm cool with that.
He had a quote he made us memorize, or mantra, that it said, public protection equals private privilege. And he made us like commit that to memory. And like, remember, like, you have to protect each other publicly. That way you can have those privileges privately.
Correct. So when she does go and talk to her mama, when she do go and talk to her cousin, when she talk to her best friend, I'm trusting that my wife is protecting me, just as I would protect her if I'm talking to any of my friends or my family, that I'm seeking counsel from. Yeah. So as long as I'm trusting in her, and she hasn't failed me on that, I'm not worried about who you're talking to, especially even if it is family. But we know that we can't talk to some family members because
family has a long memory.
You have to vet those people. Hey, bro, am I tripping? Like, that's it. And if I'm tripping and they tell me, if maybe she did say something, you need to have some grace, dog. Just kind of let that thing go.
Yeah, because I know that's a development area for me. Because when I'm venting, I'm gloves off. Because I was like, and she, because I'm frustrated, and for me it was, I know I can't talk to her, and sometimes I don't even think I was seeking counsel. I just needed to get it out, but I definitely was not trying to protect her. And then I would rationalize it like, again, you chose the action, you don't get to choose the consequence, you don't get to choose what I say because you're trying to not to look like the bad guy. But when I was done, she was definitely
the bad.
Yeah. So essentially I used to be the same way too. Like, if you made me mad, look, it's gloves off. I wouldn't have done that to you, so why are you doing it to me? You know what I mean? And so, of course, time changes all, and you just learn and grow over time. But man, I used to be the same way. I wasn't trying to protect nobody.
And sometimes you grow resentment and you don't care.
That part.
And like, to your point, Jason, it's like a logical mindset for me. If I'm not about to break up with him, ain't no sense of me sitting there bad mouthing the man, because I look foolish going back to the clown I just called a clown. So I just stopped doing that for that reason. But then once I got with a good man I'm like, hey, he's human. I'm human too. We don't always get things right. It's not really necessary. And if I'm angry with him, again, I take it to God. I write about it sometimes. Like, so, and other stuff, again, if I don't think that I was received well, that's really truly when I usually go to my community then. But it's just counterproductive once you're really like aware and mature to bad mouth the other like that out of anger.
Got you. Got you. Well, y'all, I want to thank y'all just for
Really.
all of the insight, your story. Just we can see the love, just oozing through the camera and the microphone, and it's just real apparent that you have both found your person.
Oh,
It's not just your husband and wife, but you found your person. And I think that's real huge. So with that, Dre and we're gonna move into final thoughts. Dre, we're gonna start with you on your final thoughts. Just everything that we've experienced, you about preparing to go into a marriage, just all of your
yes.
takeaways and everything else.
Try to be succinct. I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your story just for that reason. Like, so many things that I've been thinking about is on this journey, and it makes it more real to see you guys on that other side. So I feel like, okay, I'm doing the right thing. I'm having the right thoughts. It's not something that you hear often, but that's because, not a lot of people make it to where you are or have those successful relationships. So we really do need to hear some of the unspoken things that are happening, or the more radical things. We might think it's radical, but that's producing these relationships and partnerships. And that's really what I heard. I heard, being a partner. I heard willingness, right? Like to step outside of what I'm normally used to or what feels comfortable for me. I definitely heard dependence and reliance on the Lord, like, lead and guide our relationship, and we're following biblical principles, and we're going to do what God said. That's very important. I heard and see respect for one another. Like, that's really key, right? Like, I like you, I respect you, and I love you. It's not just like, oh yeah, this is wifey, or this is husband, or whatever. Like, I see that the two of you really, really like each other and respect one another, and that speaks volumes as well. So I do appreciate you. I look forward to seeing what the 1 year celebration looks like, the first set of holidays, right? We're gonna check in like, how's Thanksgiving and Christmas? And just growing with the Addisons. We're gonna be checking in on all the milestones, and we know that you're going to be great, but we definitely, pray God's best over you and your family. And thank you so much for sharing with us and
Absolutely.
all of our friends.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
My final thought, I echo all of that. And it's just great to see a young couple that have met their objective through this process and hearing everything. And my final thought would be, I often tell people that we go through life and we explain all the things that we've been through in every aspect of life, professionally, educationally, like we talk about how we went to school for umpteen years and how it takes 20 years to be an overnight success in this area. And we talk about all the hard work that we do to reach the levels of success that we've reached. And as members, Dre and I, of Black Greek letter organizations, we talk about the process that we underwent to be able to be members of our respective organizations. And then comes love. And yet we never want to put in that same time and that same effort and that same grind and that same fervor for the process like we do in every other aspect of our life. We expect it to be, we look for instant connection and instant results. And instant respect and instant adoration, and all these things. And what I heard from you, and what's the most impressive, is the intentionality and willingness of the process that you underwent to get to this point. It wasn't anything instant, just the very specific things that you addressed and you talked about. I'm very, very impressed by that because it's not something that we're talking about nowadays or seeing or hearing. It's entitlement, expectation, and when I don't get the result from one of those two, I'm moving on to the next. And so I just I really, really want to affirm you in that area, and just to allow it to continue, you know what I mean? Because it's an ongoing process, because you don't stop just because you're married, you haven't stopped being people.
Right.
And people change and people grow. And so even though it's a shameless plug, in my book I wrote that our path to purpose is is a constant reintroduction to the many versions of ourselves that we will become. And so I just feel like, you know, for me, when I find that my person, that we seize every opportunity to fall in love with every version of each other that we become over the years. It's like, oh, you're this new person, I'm this new person. Hey, and make her my girlfriend all over again, even though we're married, and start dating again. It's almost like, oh, this new version of you, let me take her on the first date, you know. And pretty much do it all over again, and just the willingness to be able to do that. And I know it sounds idealistic, but forever is a long time to wear the wrong ring. And you know,
that's a word.
For me, I'm very patient in that regard. So people look at me and my age, or, oh, you never been married, you don't have any kids, like, and it's instant red flag. And I'm like, don't penalize me for being patient, because I'm in the same boat you were with less trauma. You know. So you know, I just think you know, I just for the people that are out there dating, like, stay the course and don't be afraid to do the work that you do in every other aspect of your life. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another episode of The Crossroads. I'm your man, 100 Gram Barzini.
And I'm your girl, Dre Renee.
And remember, always, always, always be free to be you.
We want to thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and register for our email list for more episodes and projects from your hosts, Barzini and Dre Renee. Until next time, this has been the Crossroads Podcast. And remember, be free to be you.